Hi guys, and welcome once again to my book club, and this is Ari. Ari is our second dog. He was adopted and he's the only one that kind of likes hugs. Poofy is the one that's a bit more princessy. So yeah, Ari is here with me in the studio today because I think Rich needs to spend more time with Poofy. Poofy is feeling a bit neglected, I think. Right, Ari boy? Right, Ari boy? Okay, so today we're going to review a very short book, but I think it's one of the most critically acclaimed books out there. It's kind of between fiction and self-help, business literature. So this book is The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. How I came across this book was actually through Matthew McConaughey's book called Green Light, and from that book, Matthew McConaughey said he read that book, and that was like 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and he was very inspired by that book. So I was like, wow, okay, this is a business book. Why don't I read it and let's see how it goes. Okay, you want to go down? Go. Goodbye. Yeah. So this book is so interesting. It's actually kind of like framed as a story, right? About this boy called Hafid. Hafid is a poor camel boy, and he works for a very rich merchant who is known as the greatest salesman in the world at that time. So I really love how the story goes. I think I shouldn't spoil the story for those who really want to read it. It's really quite interesting. So basically, it follows what this boy asked his old master, and the old master was actually in a previous position with his old master. So most of the book is actually in this story where you kind of like, and the story is really quite well written. The dialogues are great, so I think you guys should read it. But I think the part that most people really care about, those who didn't read the book, is about the scrolls. So basically, the greatest salesman in the world has this chest, and inside this chest is rumored to have like diamonds and all the riches the greatest salesman has. But actually in this chest is 10 scrolls. So let's just go through the scrolls one by one to kind of summarize and tell you my views on all this, on the scrolls and the points that Og Mandino actually wrote about in this scroll. Scroll number 1 is, I will form good habits and become their slave. So this is really, I think, very consistent in the other business literature, like Charles Duhigg and like what James Clear writes about in Atomic Habits. And it's about having good habits and really just making it like a routine, quote unquote, becoming a slave to this routine. And becoming a slave to this good routine will kind of steer you away from the bad habits and towards success. So scroll number 2 is, I will greet this day with love in my heart. So what this means is that you should approach everything and everyone with love. And you start every day with love and kindness. In your decisions, in your interactions with people, you should always have love for them. And from having love for them, it is natural that business success and all that success and good relationships and all that will come to you naturally when you have love. Scroll 3 is, I will persist until I succeed. There's kind of like a joke between me and Rach, and she gets so frustrated. Basically, there's this property agent that keeps calling her like every other day. Like usually when people like put down the phone on you every day if you keep calling, right? You'll like stop maybe after 2 or 3 days, right? But this person has been calling her for like 5 or 6 times, and we know it's the same person because the script is exactly the same. I mean, maybe the salesmanship could be better, but I really admire the person because the person really embraced this scroll tree. This is something that I would really want to kind of like meditate much more on, because it's not even just about sales, it's also about like in life, when you fail, you kind of stand up and you keep trying. And I mean, not trying without thinking, but really being persistent, really having the grit to grind down and keep going even though you fail. And that, I think, is a quality that will make a successful person. And I think, as I said before in previous books about sales, like Daniel Pink's book, facing rejection is something that is so close to like people's heart, right? That's why we don't dare to keep persisting. But I think this is another common thread that all the business literature talks about, is really persistence and not fearing rejection and kind of like getting used to rejection. Scroll number 4 is I am nature's greatest miracle. What Og Mandino is saying in this, every one of us is special. We have our own likes and we see the world in a different way. We dislike different things. We have different passions and all that, which is kind of like what Gary Vee is trying to say also, right? So kind of like find yourself, embrace yourself, and develop on your skills and your talents that you actually like and your individuality as a person, and from there let it shine. I think for the longest time I've been trying to like fit myself in a mold, being in this Singaporean education environment, being and like, you know, friends, and I think it's everywhere, right? You try to fit in a mold, try not to be too different, but I think now is kind of the season for me to try to find myself, to embrace my own person and who I really am in my likes and my dislikes and my personality, and let it shine. Scroll 5 is I will live this day as if it is my last. I think this is also another thing that is very important. If it's your last day, what will you do? There's a lot of surveys that are out there who say those people on last day, they never said they want to work harder. They always say that, oh, I wished I spent more time with family. I wished I always wanted to do. So I think embracing this is super important. Thinking of like, if it's your last day, treat it as make the most of the day, and being present. I think being present in the moment when you're doing the thing on that day, having like good relationships. Like, I think this is something that I struggle with the most, right? Like I keep thinking like, oh, one day I'm gonna be there, and how do I go there? And thinking like, oh, today sucks, right? But I think this is where I want to be aligned towards living this day as if my last, being present for my family, for my dogs, for my relationships, for my own personal self and what I actually want to do. Rule 6 is today I will be the master of my emotions. I think this is super important. I mean, we have all seen like people getting angry at each other and just spoiling everything. It's super lose-lose situation, and also, you know, doing things that, you know, actually would spoil you, but in that moment you just cannot control yourself. I mean, I was brought up in such a situation. I used to be someone like that, cannot control my emotions. But over the past few years, I've been trying to do like things to actually practice myself and actually regulate my emotions. Scroll number 7 is I will laugh at the world. So what this means is kind of like really just being humorous, even not just to the world but also about yourself. I think sometimes some people really just can't laugh at themselves, right? So recently I had this incident that I had to take down some posts because some people can't laugh at themselves. Like, I mean, and the person went all the way to get a lawyer letter for me to do so. And I mean, I would have taken it down if the person actually told me to. But if I were in their shoes, I think laugh at myself, which I always do. It's not, especially with things that I'm not good at. And even with things, I think it's harder with things that I'm good at, and to laugh at myself when I fail. And when I'm stressed and when bad things happen, I think, and challenges and setbacks and all that, right? I think having kind of like a laughter and all that, like, I mean, there are so many things that I feel now, and I genuinely laugh at it, and it's so like relieving to actually laugh at all these things and to move on and to cope with life. Scroll number 8 is today I will multiply my value 100-fold. I will improve my skills, I will keep on improving myself, and I will add value to other people's life as much as possible. It's all about value. There's only so much you can do if you don't provide value and don't keep improving your value as a business and as a person. I think this is super important. I think we have said it so many times about providing value, and even almost every book that I have reviewed recently is all about providing value. And scroll number 9 is I will act now. I think this is something that I struggle with quite a lot, which is on the contrary what Rich doesn't really struggle with, which is really, if you think you want to do something, you just immediately go and do it. That's really, like for me, it's like, oh, I think I want to do it, then I lie on it. Then after one day become 1 week, become 1 month, become 1 year, become 1 lifetime, right? So the thing about successful people that I also have noticed from people that I have worked with who are very successful, they actually, when they want it, they think of an idea, they just execute, and then we talk about it later. Don't be perfectionist, just go and do it. So I will act now, and I think having that in your head is really very powerful to really just go and do it. Number 10 is kind of like the sweetener, which I think is the make it or break it, is about I will pray for guidance. I think Og Mandino himself is probably a Christian, and I think even whether you're Christian or not, you should have some sort of spiritual practice to kind of like pray that the universe or God or whoever will give you clarity, will give you strength, and will give you and guide you towards the path that you need to be. Because I mean, some people call it luck, but I would say I call it God. So what do you call it? Just go for it and just ask for that guidance. So okay, so that's kind of like the summary of the book. That's kind of like the summary of the scrolls. So now we're going to part of the verdict for the book, right? So in terms of difficulty, this is the idiot-proof level, which is 1 out of 5. It's really easy to read, and it's a story. So honestly, anyone of any kind of like linguistic background, in my opinion, can read this book, and it's super thin, so I really think it's something that you can buy like 5 for your friends and they just distribute it out. That is how easy it is to read. In terms of change my life meter, right, this is also Epiphany, which is 4 out of 5. I think especially for people who don't really read, this is, for the amount of text and the easiness to read, it really encapsulates all the truths, and in such an interesting way, right? Having a better life and also having success in life, and not just being a salesman. So I think really this book is something that everyone should read. I think it's it probably has the same level of importance in terms of literature as Think and Grow Rich, as How to Win Friends and Influence People, as 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book is up there with it, and it's so summarized, and it's great. So yeah, there you have it. So this is my book review on The Greatest Salesman in the World. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button for more of these videos, and I will see you next week.